But our top story tonight, the Supreme Court has advocated harsher punishment today for those convicted of sexually abusing children. The country's top court today asked Parliament to consider amending laws for such cases which are on the rise. The court was hearing a plea seeking castration of rapists who target children. Hearing a petition seeking castration of child abuse convicts, the court said Parliament may consider more stringent punishment in cases where the rape victim is a child, asking Parliament to think of redefining the term child in the context of rape. It was listening to a petition filed by the Supreme Court Women Lawyers Association, which argued that only castration can act as an effective deterrent against sexual crimes involving children. Anusha has more.
The Supreme Court today has put the ball clearly in the court of the centre after agreeing to the concerns which were expressed by the petitioner. The court agreed to the fact that there are various instances of child rape and molestation which are coming into light. However, it also agreed with the argument of the Attorney General who represented the centre that it cannot go ahead and make new categories of crime and punishment. This is a matter which is better left to the legislature to further delegate and make sure that there are further laws. The court cannot constitutionally and legally go ahead and issue a direction to the Parliament to invent new categories of crime. And this argument of Attorney General found some merit with the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court dismissed this petition, saying that the centre must take positive steps.
Okay, the big question, of course, is what should be done in this country? Because let us take a look at how the world deals with child rape. Now, several US states mandatorily say chemical castration. United Kingdom among them, rising instances of chemical castration also in Russia, where a court-appointed official clears castration penalty for rapists who target under 14. South Korea, where the court can order chemical castration of rapists targeting under 16. Poland, mandatory chemical castration of child molesters. Estonia, forced chemical castration of sexual offenders. Moldova, forced chemical castration of sex offenders. Now that's what happens globally. The big question, of course, is should this be happening in India? That's the question I want to raise. I want you, the viewers, to join in also. The castration debate. Should child rapists be subjected to castration? That's what we need. Or is it inhuman to do it? That's the question I want to pose. Joining me now, Prerna Kumari. She's the petitioner, the General Secretary of the Supreme Court's Women's Lawyers Association, which brought this petition. I'm also joined by Vrinda Grover, senior lawyer, also by Sapna Bhavnani, celebrity hairstylist, and someone who has openly said that she's a gang rape survivor who chose to share her story with the world, and also Neena Nayak, former chairperson of the Karnataka State Commission for Protection of Child Rights, also with the National Child Rights Protection Rights of India. But I want to come to you, Prerna, first. Your petition has been dismissed or disposed of, and the court is saying this is not our job. It is for Parliament to decide whether there should be castration for child rapists. Please tell me what prompted you to go to the court. Why do you believe that castration is required?
Yeah, that's a very important question, and it's a very sensitive issue also. So I just first want to go, there was a rape of 28 days old girl, infant you could say. There was a rape in UP, and 25 years old man has raped that girl, and this was triggered us to come to before this honorable court. And
no. Do you believe that if there was a law of castration, that 25-year-old would not have raped that 28-year-old?
Of course, fear is there. I can see the fear in the eyes. See, even when we talk about the castration, regarding the castration, the word as it comes, I have seen people. Castration is very barbaric. What do you think? No, just tell me.
Person living in a small village, a man of 25 years old is going to have the fear of castration, which will stop him from committing the rape of a 28-day-old child?
Yes, of course.
You believe there's fear?
Yeah, there is fear.
Let me get Vrinda Grover on that. Vrinda Grover, Prerna Kumari says there's fear. I think this has been used by most advocates of this viewpoint, that it will evoke fear. Even a Madras High Court bench in Madurai suggested, because they believe the present law is ineffective. Respond to this fear factor. Castration will lead to fear.
I just want to add...
One minute. Yes, Vrinda.
I think we should first understand what is castration that the law permits. You cited many instances globally. Let's go to the US, where 8 or 9 states, starting with California, which was the first state to opt for castration. What does it mean over there? It means that when the child sex offender, the sex offender who's committed a sexual offense on a child is let out on parole, he is given the option, or she is given the option to opt for chemical castration. In terms of repeat offenders, California and another state makes it mandatory. So this is when they are being sent out into society and no longer in confinement. What is castration? Let's debunk this, because I think when we say, oh, there is fear in the eyes of the men, I really wish that law could induce that kind of fear. Unfortunately, it doesn't, and the reasons for that lie elsewhere, where I will come in a moment. But what is castration here? It is not about chopping off the penis of the man, because that is not what is actually producing the hormones. Chemical castration is a means by which an injection is given, chemicals are induced to reduce the libido. The testosterone of the man is reduced through Depo-Provera and other such chemicals, which have to be given at periodic intervals. This is taken by the convict voluntarily. This is not something that is imposed on the first-time offender, even in California. I think what is the popular myth is, and let us not for a moment think that anybody here thinks that the kind of instance that was just cited would by any person be seen as something that would not evoke horror or would not evoke in us anger and rage. But what would be the proper response, both in order to provide deterrence, in order to provide prevention, as well as remain within the constitutional norms? Let us also remember that this will dislodge the entire...
Is it a deterrent?
Let us look at what has happened everywhere.
Is it a deterrent or not? Is there enough evidence, anecdotal evidence to show it's a deterrent?
There is no evidence. There is no evidence. Death penalty is not a deterrent for any crime. And you are telling me chemical castration can be a deterrent? How is it possible? When people are willing to commit crimes for which death sentence is prescribed in the statute book and the penal code forever, what crime has it deterred? Therefore, can we, and also, what is our analysis of the crime then? We are saying these are men who are walking around with a sexual urge that is uncontrollable, and therefore through chemical castration we are controlling it.
Yes.
Or is the petitioner saying, and I would like her to expand on this, is she saying that this is about chopping off the penis? Because if that is the situation, then you are violating the Indian Constitution, Article 21. You are going to stand foul of the Convention Against Torture. And why stop only at rape, chopping off a physical part? Why not for theft? Why not for other kind of crimes?
You made your point. Vrinda, you made your point. Let her respond. What is it that you want?
Sure.
Do you want the penis to be cut off of the person? Is that what you're asking for?
No.
What is it that you want?
We have said about chemical castration.
You're limiting yourself to chemical castration. But as you see,
that is for only 3 months. I tell you very frankly, that is for...
As Brinda is pointing out, there is absolutely no evidence, no anecdotal evidence that it acts as a deterrent. It does not. There is no evidence that chemical castration acts as a deterrent. So on what basis are you saying that there is fear? When in a country there is no fear of death penalty, you believe that chemical castration will result fear?
As you have shown right now, some of the nations, some of the states, there you can see the crime graphs. After they have introduced this chemical castration and castration, their crime graphs have been low.
Is there any evidence of that? Quickly, Brinda, is there any evidence across the world to show that when there is chemical castration in the law books?
Two things I want to say.
Yes.
Please. Can I just add one thing here? And I think she agreed to that.
Yes.
Those are situations where people are voluntarily accepting chemical castration. When they are being given out on parole, they are being put out on bail, they are being let out of the confines of the prison, they are accepting chemical castration. This is done voluntarily by the offender. That is not what is the nature in which it is being presented. Secondly, is that the only difference why crime graph goes down? Crime graph goes down because the police investigates, because there is timely prosecution.
So it's about certainty of punishment.
Disposal of cases.
I take your point. It's about certainty of punishment.
And the entire legal system working.
Okay. It's about certainty of punishment. Let me get in more views. At the moment, I'm joined by someone who in a way, Sapna Bhavnani, you're a celebrity hairstylist, but you've gone public by saying that you are a gang rape survivor. You chose to share your story with the world. You're listening to these views, mainly from the world of law. Give us a more human perspective. Do you believe that you need this kind of seemingly stringent punishment, something more dramatic than what we have at the moment, a more barbaric punishment as it is seen?
I think that castration is a really inhuman solution to a human problem. When you're talking about fear, and if you think that the rapist is going to have fear because of castration, I think it's a very naive perception. I think the fear from no matter is in the eyes of the rapist. I can kind of vouch for that.
So you don't think that a rapist, because you don't think a rapist will be deterred at all by the nature of the punishment? Do you think he will be deterred more by the certainty of punishment?
Not at all. I think that a rapist is probably not going to be deterred by anything, even if it is a death penalty, to be honest. And I feel, as a survivor myself, I know this is a very, maybe it's a very liberal thing, but I have even forgiven my perpetrators. I have no hatred towards them. I feel that if you want to make a change in anything, you need education, and you need to come from a place of love. I can't come here like a shouting lunatic, full of rage, and yelling at all the rapists who are watching this program and telling them that you're going to die, you're going to burn, because it's not something that they don't know already and they haven't heard already.
And you don't think that if tomorrow they were to be told that yes, you could be castrated, that's going to change anything in their lives, right?
It's not. I don't think, and I think a lot of people think that people rape because of a sexual urge. It's not a sexual urge. It's definitely something to show that they are superior. It's got nothing to do with, oh, you know, I just have this urge, let me find the next thing and let me just
rape her. Yeah, you know,
it's definitely got to do a lot. Yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead.
I can't even say that word. Do you know? I can't even say that word. I mean, it's taken me like 20 some years to even say that that happened to me. Why? Because there was fear in me, saying that if I said it, then it would be true. And if I said it, I would be judged. So why doesn't the Supreme Court, I mean, you know, every day I just hear about rapists, let's kill them, let's castrate them. Why are we not talking about the survivors? Why are we not talking about these kids? What are we doing that they can get on with their lives? What can we do to place them in safe homes, that they are not judged when these kids grow up? People like me who have come out, but at the same time I know everywhere I go, people know my story, you know.
So
I go to villages, they look at me like, Didi, hame malum hai, you know.
Are you saying therefore reform is the way forward, that society needs to look
to much effort? Yes, yes, and not just reform. What about just looking at the survivors and thinking, what are we going to do for them? What is the Supreme Court? Why aren't we coming up with programs based for them? Why are we having this discussion every day? We only have discussions about rapists. You know, I want to have a discussion about the survivors. Why are they not given any importance? They're reform. But we are just giving importance to the punishment. This is what gets me, you know.
Can I just quote though, and I'm going to ask you this, Neera Nayak, since you worked with the child protection rights, let me quote to you what one of the justices observed. The suggestion to castrate may look barbaric, but barbaric criminals needed barbaric punishment. The very thought of the punishment should deter the criminal from committing the offense. You know, you've got someone like Sapna who's coming in openly and saying, look, nothing's going to change irrespective of what is the nature of punishment. And you've got a justice, a senior judge saying this. What does that tell you? There is a section of society, and Prerna represents that, who believes that unless you give that more stringent punishment, unless there is a real fear, nothing's going to change. What's your experience when you were with the Child Protection Rights of India?
No, I don't think it's fear, Rajdeep. I go by what J.S. the Verma says that, castration can't move the social foundation of rape. So what is it? Why are these rapists there? Why? What is their background? Since the Supreme Court has asked Parliament, let Parliament look at some empirical data. Let's not go by debates. Let's not go by standing committee meetings and all that. Let's see why it happens. And I totally agree with the last speaker saying that we are not talking about survivors. Let's look at systems. If you look at let's have speedy trials. Let's see that there's no there's a lot of hostility. A lot of cases just drop. So let's instill fear in the rapist, saying that if you do something like this, you're going to get convicted real fast. The other thing is, let's have systems. We don't have enough IOs, investigation officers. We don't have, like for children, we don't have juvenile. If you look at the special juvenile police units where we have to have 2 social workers to work with survivors, to work with rapists, nothing is there. So I urge the parliamentarians, when you're looking at these subjects, the Supreme Court has put it to you, go into your constituency, see whether systems are available, systems are there
Can I just hold you?
Rapists. And if you look at rapists, why are they doing? Just tell me, why are they doing? You can look at many of these rapists, maybe coming from families where there is open marital sex happening. They're trying to explore. They don't know what is happening. So they come from some kind of situations where sometimes these things are provoked. It's just, exploratory, the age, etc. I think we have to look at the larger picture.
Can I just hold you for a moment? I just want to understand, whether castration in any way is unconstitutional. Brinda Grover, just a quick comment. Is it unconstitutional to even look at it when judges are clearly suggesting that they are not against the idea?
Well, I wouldn't comment on an observation made by the Supreme Court, except to say that as I read the Constitution and Article 21, which has been repeatedly expounded by the Supreme Court to say right to life with dignity, the judgment in Selvi versus State of Karnataka, where the Supreme Court held that narco-analysis, brain mapping, insertion of truth serum are all to be unconstitutional unless taken with and only in situations where the person consents.
So are you okay with voluntary castration?
Of course, it is still
Are you okay with voluntary castration like in California?
Even I would like...
I think if there, voluntary chemical castration is allowed in certain specific situations where the person is being let out on bail, where after both medical and psychological testing, it is found that there is reason to administer certain form of chemicals. This is not an alternative punishment that is to be given. And before I go any further, I do want to over here pause and say I am full of admiration and I have great respect for what Ms. Bhavnani has just said. And if there is any hope in this country for us to move forward as a society, I think we need to pay a lot of attention to what Ms. Bhavnani is saying to us. This is the way forward.
Can I just go back to her therefore? Can I just go back to her, because you've heard the I'm trying to now reset the debate in terms of voluntary castration. Do you see that as a solution, Sapna, that if there is an individual, as part of his possible reform process, he subjects himself to voluntary castration?
I really don't know how that would help, to be honest. I think that it could just be a cop-out just for him to get out, thinking that, oh, I'll just vouch for this and they will let me get out. And I don't think that would help in any way, to be honest. I don't think that violence is the answer to any of these problems.
No, when you
1 minute. I just have someone. आपकी भांजी, भतीजी, उनके खिलाफ चाइल्ड रेप हुआ था.
हाँ जी.
आप हमें बताइए कि क्या आपको लगता है कि कैस्ट्रेशन जैसी अगर पनिशमेंट हो तो कोई बदल होता? क्या आपको वाकई लगता है कि डर फैलाना पड़ता है?
देखिए, आजकल जो खासकर माइनर बच्चों के साथ इस तरह के जो केस आ रहे हैं
जी,
आपको बहुत ज़्यादा देखने को मिल रहा है अभी. और इसके ऊपर कुछ नहीं, जैसे पुलिस बता रही कि हम इसके ऊपर बहुत जोर से काम कर रहे हैं, लेकिन हकीकत में ऐसा नज़र नहीं आ रहा है.
तो आपको लगता है कि क्या इससे बदलाव आएगा, या ये होना चाहिए कि कम से कम जल्द से जल्द सजा हो?
बिल्कुल.
सवाल इसका नहीं है कि किस तरह की सजा हो. कैस्ट्रेशन हो, डेथ पेनल्टी हो, लाइफ इम्प्रिजनमेंट हो, सवाल है कि 1 साल में होना चाहिए।
बिल्कुल,
ये आप मानते हैं कि नहीं?
बिल्कुल ये होना ही चाहिए। आप देख लीजिए, अभी तक निर्भया को छोड़ के देश में कोई भी ऐसा फैसला नहीं आया है।
आपके केस में कितने साल लगे हैं?
3 साल हो चुका, अभी तक रिजल्ट नहीं आई है।
3 साल लगे हैं। कितने साल की आपकी भतीजी थी?
5 साल की थी जब
5 साल
उसके
की थी। और
साथ इस
किसने
तरह की
उनका
घटना
रेप
हुई।
किया था?
2 आदमी से मिलके।
कितने साल के थे वो?
और एजुअल है। और खास करके आप हर केस में देखिए, जो आरोपी होता है वो अपने आप को माइनर बताने की कोशिश करता है और इसमें उलझा के रखता है।
वो तो और एक प्रॉब्लम है कि किस तरह से माइनर दिखाता है। रेपिस्ट इज सीन एज माइनर। You are saying you wanted to make a point, Prerna. Yes.
Oh, yeah, on unconstitutional you have said, now on that point I just
Yes.
wanted to come. See, in Vishakha, the Supreme Court held that since there was no legislation, the guidelines were issued in the nature of direction to fill in the gaps. So whenever there is a gap and if you want to do something good for the society,
You believe something good will be done by society, but I'm coming back to it. Is the answer voluntarism? Is the answer we need some remedy? Obviously, the remedies cannot just be through castration. I think we are more or less in agreement that castration alone is not going to be able to solve any problem. But I'm going to ask you, Sapna, if you were to provide one solution, since you've actually gone through it, what do you believe is the solution? We want to know a solution. I think people are I think the debate over castration has come over a sense of frustration, of helplessness almost that you feel around you.
Yeah, I feel like the best solution would be of society to not judge a survivor or a child who has gone through this situation, to enable them not to keep silent. Because if they start speaking, I think that would deter a rapist the most, knowing that tomorrow if they did something, this person is not going to be quiet. But unfortunately in our country, they know that a woman if will not speak because there's this whole shame factor involved. They know a child will also not speak because the parent, most of the time it's probably a family member that's doing that to the child. And if the child talks to the parent, the child is going to get blamed. So I think we need to create a society and we need to be compassionate enough that people who have gone through this can stand up and speak without judgment. And I think the day that happens is going to deter a lot of rapists out there, knowing that this person will stand up and go to the cops. And it's not just going to be quiet and take it.
And importantly, that punishment will then not just name or shame them, but then go through a fast track process. So I'm presuming in your case, for example, have the people got away?
Exactly.
The people who are responsible for gang raping you, have they got away?
Let me tell you honestly, my gang rape happened in America. I was so ashamed to tell anybody about it that I did not do anything about it. To be honest, I was wearing a short dress. I was drunk. I was walking alone in the middle of the night. And when this happened to me, I automatically thought this was my fault. And I called for it. And tomorrow if I went to the cops, and that's even in America, it's not just an Indian problem. Even if I had gone to the cops in America, they would have told me the same thing. What were you doing in the middle of the night, drunk, wearing a short dress? And I was just really afraid, and I did not want to go through the ordeal. So you know what? The mind is such a beautiful thing, it just helps you forget. So I forgot. I forgot for 20 years. I just forgot.
You forgot for 20 years. So what we are really talking about is changing mindsets. I think we are talking about changing mindsets of survivors. We are talking of changing mindset of the judicial system, of our police and our law enforcement system. It's only when mindsets change and punishment is certain, rather than necessarily barbaric, as we sometimes see, certainly many of us see castration to be, that some change can be effected. But I'm glad that this subject has come out of the closet. I think we need to discuss it. We need to discuss it openly, freely. Yes, you want to make one final point, Sapna. Go ahead.
We need to have empirical data, Rajdeep. We need to have empirical data. Why is this happening?
Okay, well, you need empirical data. You're saying, Ms. Nayak, as to why is it happening. Okay, I take that. Yes, Brinda, you also want to make a quick
who are
point.
these
Quick,
rapists?
Brinda, yes.
Yeah.
And then I'll end with Sapna. Yes, Brinda.
I would request that the new law came into being and POCSO came into being in 2012 and this in 2013.
Yes.
Can the court or the parliament, somebody set up a system where we can monitor and evaluate what has happened to the cases that have been filed?
Okay, point taken.
Hysteria and
Very
anger
good point.
is not helping either women or children.
Very good point that we need empirical data as to what has happened as a result of these new laws.
Totally agree with Brinda.
Final point to you, Sapna. Yes.
Yeah. And I just want to say that to all the women and the men and the kids out there, it was not my fault.
I know it was not
And
your
just
fault.
for that, I still wear short dresses and I still go out. And I just want to make sure that everybody listening, the women out there, the men out there, the kids out there, whatever they tell you, it's not your fault. Nothing you wear or say or do deserves rape. Nothing. Thank you.
Thank you very much for speaking to us. आपके भी प्रॉब्लम को हम जानते हैं और हम चाहते हैं कि जल्द से जल्द उनके खिलाफ सजा हो. सजा लोगों को जल्द से जल्द चाहिए. सबसे बड़ी बात है जल्द से जल्द.
और 6 months में अभी हुए.
We want fast track day-to-day hearing. That's the only way out. Maybe that's the way the law needs to move. I appreciate all my guests joining us on our top talking point tonight. But I want
our top story. It's a sensational claim by senior Congress leader Manish Tiwari. The former Information and Broadcasting Minister has said the controversial news item about the possible military coup in Delhi, published by the Indian